Thank you for listening to Fate Weaver. Chapter 42. Recruits. Cyrus returned to his wagon, excited about his recent acquisitions. As he approached, he was surprised to see not only Clang and Service working diligently, but also 3 other boys laboring alongside them. Although they were slightly older than Cyrus, he considered himself more of a man because he had passed the trials of manhood. He realized these were simplistic views that no longer fit into his way of thought, but old habits were hard to break. These newcomers were not merely assisting, they seemed to be planning their own journey with Cyrus. Intrigued, he approached the group and was introduced to the trio. 2 brothers, Eamon and Gavrik, and their close friend, Eldrick. Each had their own unique skills and backgrounds, but they all shared a similar story. Being 3rd and 4th sons, they were destined to remain in the shadows of their older siblings, unable to make a significant impact on their families' businesses or trades within the caravan. Eamon was an amateur fletcher, Eldrick had helped train horses, and Gavrik had the makings of a talented herbalist. All 3 had dreams of achieving greatness, and they had heard whispers of Cyrus's incredible feats and rapidly growing influence. Seeing an opportunity for adventure and a chance to carve their own paths in the world, they decided to seek out Cyrus and pledge their loyalty to him. As the sun cast its warm white light over the bustling caravan, Cyrus listened intently to the stories of the 3 men. He could see the fire of ambition in their eyes, and their enthusiasm was contagious. The prospect of having these skilled individuals join him on his journey filled Cyrus with a renewed sense of excitement and purpose. With the addition of Eamon, Gavrik, and Eldrick to his group, Cyrus's team was quickly becoming an impressive force. Together, they would face whatever challenges the world had in store for them, united by their shared desire for adventure and the pursuit of greatness. They had heard whispers of Lord Cyrus forming a mercenary group that would be hired out to various noble houses, and they knew that many would be eager to employ such a talented warrior and his growing band of skilled fighters. The brothers, Eamon and Gavrik, were adept with bows, having spent countless hours practicing their aim under the watchful eyes of their father, a skilled archer himself. Eldrick, the friend, came from a family of renowned horse trainers and was well versed in the care and maintenance of horses, an invaluable skill given that the group now had 6 magnificent steeds among them. As the iris of the sun was at its widest, white light glowed across the caravan. Cyrus spoke with Service about the 3 new additions to their group. Service confirmed the boys' skills and vouched for their potential as valuable members of the team. With a nod of approval, Cyrus welcomed the trio into his ranks. He envisioned them growing into skilled warriors under his guidance, and he knew that their unique abilities would only strengthen their group as they embarked on daring adventures and battled fearsome foes. Cyrus allowed each to swear the words of fealty and accepted the role of being their leader. He was not exactly sure how he was going to take care of 5 other people, but he never doubted that he could. As the preparations for their journey continued, Cyrus couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. With each new member that joined his team, his dream of forging a formidable mercenary group was becoming a reality. Together, they would take on the challenges that the world had to offer, fighting for honor, glory, and the promise of a brighter future. Cyrus surveyed the impressive array of equipment and supplies that had been amassed for their upcoming journey. He instructed Clang to compile a list of any additional items they might need, but he couldn't help but be amazed at the generosity of the caravan workers. The caravan workers were grateful for the many times Lord Cyrus had saved their lives, and they were more than willing to part with some of their wares. However, when Clang and Service approached them, they initially hesitated. The 2 guardsmen decided to take matters into their own hands, subtly revealing their weapons to remind the workers of Cyrus's bravery and the protection he had provided. With a newfound sense of urgency, the caravan workers relinquished the supplies Clang and Service requested. Now their group was well equipped, boasting a large wagon that served as Cyrus's cabin, a spacious open wagon that would carry their supplies, and 6 sturdy horses. It was indeed an excellent beginning for his burgeoning army. Eamon and Gavrik, the skilled archer brothers, shared a single bow and quiver between them, but their talent was undeniable. As they demonstrated their prowess, Cyrus could envision them becoming formidable fighters under his tutelage. Eldrick, the young horseman, possessed not only a deep knowledge of the surrounding terrain, but also the ability to expertly guide both wagons to any destination Cyrus requested. To Cyrus's delight, he discovered that Eldrick had another rare and valuable skill. He could read. Although his proficiency was limited, it was an exceptional talent in a world where literacy was scarce. This ability spoke volumes about the potential of his sharp and resourceful mind. The air grew a little hotter, and Cyrus felt a growing sense of pride and excitement. His motley group of skilled and eager individuals was coming together, bound by a shared purpose and the promise of great adventures ahead. With each new member and piece of equipment, Cyrus's dream of building a formidable army inched closer to reality, and he knew that, together, they were destined for greatness. He ordered Clang to go with Eldrick to get that list of supplies. He may actually end up with a list. Yes, this was going to work out well. Cyrus had an idea that would put a bit of flair in his new mercenary force. He began to collect the oldest and most rusted-out weaponry that his men had collected from the caravan and brought it inside his cabin. He needed some privacy to make this happen. Cyrus tossed 6 old swords onto the bed. They were rusted and bent, and he knew why they had gotten them for free. He picked up the first, a long sword that had seen much better days. Cyrus didn't have any problems remembering the weapons that Clang and Service used. They had swung them plenty of times in his direction. He closed his eyes and concentrated on his minor creation ability. The autonomous nanoparticles began to shift within the blade, adding material, erasing weak points in the steel, sharpening the edge to a razor, and giving it a perfect balance. When he opened his eyes, a gleaming steel bastard sword shined before him. His personal insignia etched into the metal just above the ricasso, the unsharpened portion of the blade just above the hilt, used for gripping the sword during certain maneuvers. He continued his endeavors and created a deadly cleaver with a vicious serrated blade and 3 short swords for the boys, each emblazoned with his sigil and each a stunning work of art. With Queen's help, they designed 2 recurved longbows that were made from carbon nanofibers and would be like nothing these guys had ever seen. He decided that would begin a rigorous training schedule starting every morning. He made new scabbards that would go with the weapons and quivers to accompany the bows. This tired him out as he depleted his willpower and fell asleep before it got dark. Chapter 43. Memory Problems. Having more than a full night's rest, Cyrus woke before the sun's iris cracked open. His body felt revitalized, and he rose with purpose, eager to greet the day ahead. He wandered into the larger sitting space of his cabin, a room he had scarcely spent time in. His days had been filled with activity, leaving little time for leisure. When not tending to the needs of the caravan, he practiced his aerokinetic abilities or collapsed into a well-deserved sleep. He found himself staring at an intricate map sprawled across the table. Cyrus could barely remember the night before. He had been consumed by an unyielding focus, driven to create this masterpiece. Cyrus marveled at the level of detail and accuracy, as if the very essence of the landscape had been transferred onto the table before him. A map of the area tens of miles wide, complete with his 2-wagon mercenary company. Cyrus leaned in closer to examine the map, tracing a path with his finger that led to a majestic mountain range. He estimated the journey would take about 5 days by wagon, following a less maintained road that wound through the wilderness. Although rugged, the path was still navigable and would eventually lead them to their destination. Along the way, he noted a quaint village nestled between their current location and a bright red X marking a mysterious cave halfway up one of the towering peaks. This village could be a welcome opportunity for resupply, rest, and perhaps even the chance to gather information about the surrounding area. As the first beam of dawn pierced the iris, a soft, ethereal glow washed over the landscape, painting the world in hues of white and gold. This breathtaking sight greeted Cyrus through the cabin window, invigorating him with the promise of the journey ahead. With the detailed map in hand, Cyrus and his growing band of loyal followers were about to embark on a thrilling adventure filled with peril, camaraderie, and the opportunity to carve their own path in the world. Lost in his reverie of glory and excitement, Cyrus noticed a cluster of finely cut stones nestled in the corner of the table. He racked his brain but couldn't recall crafting them. Fatigue must have clouded his memory the previous night, he mused. Regardless, these glittering stones were a stroke of genius. They would serve as a valuable resource, providing the funds needed for any overlooked supplies during their expedition. With a shrug, Cyrus scooped up the stones and carefully stowed them in his small money pouch. The morning sun now bathed the world in a warm, white embrace, inviting him to step outside and greet the day. The moment Cyrus stepped outside, he was greeted by the sight of his 5 men diligently practicing their forms in the soft morning light. It struck him as peculiar that it had taken the loss of their manhood for clang and service to truly embrace their potential as real men. With newfound maturity, they led the forms for the other 3, demonstrating each move with a blend of patience and eagerness. Their weapons, though unfamiliar and wielded with slight hesitation, glinted as they traced arcs through the air. Draped over their shoulders, white capes fluttered gracefully, adorned with the bold black sigil embroidered on the back, a symbol that now united them under Cyrus's leadership. He couldn't help but feel a swell of pride at the sight. Cyrus turned around, only to find his own cabin similarly marked with the sigil in stark white paint against the dark wooden planks. It was a proclamation to all who laid eyes on the wagon, announcing the identity of its occupants. The anonymity he had once enjoyed had vanished, but in its place was a sense of unity and purpose that bound his growing band of followers together. There was only one problem. "Queen!" Cyrus shouted, a sense of panic rising within him. "What's happening? I don't remember doing these things. I think I might be losing my mind." Queen's voice was calm and reassuring as she replied, "It's all right, Cyrus. It's merely a temporary hiccup as your powers continue to develop. You've surrendered yourself to the time stream, and while you sleep, your body is adapting to its flow. There's truly nothing to be concerned about. As you develop more powers and truly give yourself over, you will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Just remember, I am always here to support you, and if there's ever a risk to your safety, I will be able to prevent any harm." Cyrus felt a wave of relief wash over him. "I'm so grateful to have you guiding me through this, Queen. Not that I doubt you, but how exactly would you stop me from hurting myself or others?" An uncomfortable silence stretched out as Cyrus anxiously awaited a response. Suddenly everything went pitch black as the blood ceased flowing to his brain, causing him to pass out cold. The sound of Cyrus's fall caught the attention of his followers, who immediately abandoned their practice to rush over to their fallen lord. As quickly as he had fallen, Cyrus stood up on his own, slightly disoriented but otherwise unharmed. He waved his concerned men away. "I'm perfectly fine. I just need to sit down for a moment. I'll be right back." Cyrus spun on his heels and marched back into the cabin, making a beeline for his bed. As he passed the massive gilded mirror, he couldn't help but flash a wink at his own reflection. With a playful leap, he jumped into the air, clicking his heels together before landing on the plush, welcoming bed. He took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and closed his eyes. Suddenly, he bolted upright, his heart pounding like a frightened rabbit. "What did you do to me?" he demanded. Queen's voice was soothing yet firm. "I merely demonstrated my ability to prevent you from doing anything foolish. Now, you can put your worries about the time stream aside and simply embrace it. The time stream is the source of power for all temporal warriors, and it can make you incredibly strong." Cyrus, having absolutely no memory of what happened after he passed out, gave a reluctant nod. "All right, but could you make me one promise?" "Of course, Cyrus," Queen replied. "You are the reason I exist. As long as it serves our best interests, I will do whatever I can to help you." With a determined expression, Cyrus said, "Never do that again." The moment was a mix of tension and humor, as Cyrus learned to trust in Queen's power while also asserting his boundaries. It was a delicate balance, but one they would continue to navigate together as they faced the many challenges that lay ahead on their journey. Chapter 44. Company of the Crescent Blades. Cyrus and his daring mercenary band prepared to part ways with the bustling caravan that had been their temporary home. The hum of excited conversations and the clatter of hooves filled the air as the group steeled themselves for the next chapter in their epic saga. They were each bidding farewell to comrades and family. Cyrus had already said his goodbyes and was able to spend his time tracing the contours of the mysterious map he had created. The wooden table was lined with cryptic symbols in a language he did not understand. His fingers traced the intricate three-dimensional pathways that led to the distant, jagged peaks of a mountain range, the secrets of which lay veiled in enigma. The mountains loomed on the horizon, their snow-capped summits beckoning the adventurers like a whispered promise of untold treasures and exhilarating challenges. Cyrus had dedicated part of his morning to a session with Eldrick. It was a fact he wished to keep concealed that he had never before ridden a horse. However, his secret was instantly laid bare to everyone the moment he awkwardly attempted to mount one of the imposing steeds. Clang had returned from bidding farewell to his former Lord Tylan, bringing with him a stunning white stallion that he insisted should belong to Cyrus. This generous gift raised the tally of horses in their possession to 7. Clang explained that Lord Tylan had learned that most of the supplies provided to Cyrus had come from the central and rear sections of the caravan, and this gift was his way of paying tribute to the caravan's most valiant warrior. Upon hearing this, Cyrus couldn't discern whether Clang was referring to himself or Cyrus. Regardless, he now faced the inevitable task of learning to ride. He quickly came to understand that mastering this skill would be a grueling life lesson, one he would eventually be grateful for, but only after enough time had elapsed for both his pride and body to recover. With unwavering resolve, the motley crew of warriors, archers, and their enigmatic leader set out on a winding path that snaked its way through verdant meadows and dense forests. The sweet scent of wildflowers filled their nostrils, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp soil beneath their feet. As they ventured further from the caravan, the cacophony of civilization gradually gave way to the tranquil sounds of nature, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze, the melodic calls of birds flitting among the treetops, and the distant murmur of a babbling brook. Cyrus had shown Cyrus the map inside his cabin. He was positively astounded. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. "Lord Cyrus, the detail in this work seems impossible," he exclaimed several times. They had agreed that the ravine they would have to cross would have taken them a few extra days, but now they knew exactly where they needed to go to find the bridge. They would be in the small village of Emberstaff in 2 days. They spent the time on the road training on top of Cyrus's cabin. Clang and Cyrus used it as a sleeping station, but it was easily cleaned off and worked wonderfully as a way to train for balance. His small crew was learning a lot from each other and advancing quite nicely. The 2 archers had spent many hours practicing with their new bows that Cyrus had made for them. They were just as amazed with this new material and craftsmanship as Cyrus had been with the map. They would stand in the back of the flat wagon and shoot at a hay bale that had been mounted on the back of Cyrus's cabin. The further they journeyed, the more the landscape began to transform, as if they were traversing through the pages of a storybook. Lush valleys gave way to imposing cliffs, their craggy faces etched with the scars of time. The once clear sky darkened with ominous clouds, casting eerie shadows across the land and imbuing their quest with an air of foreboding. "The harbingers of death!" Gavrik exclaimed, unleashing another arrow that pierced the air with a fierce hiss before burying itself deep within the hay bale target. Relieved by the break in the oppressive silence and the palpable sense of foreboding, Aemon, his brother, shook his head with a wry grin and countered, "The tempests of death." Cyrus, perched atop his majestic white steed and garbed in resplendent white cloth armor accented with golden trim, couldn't help but smile as he listened to the spirited debate. "Must we have death in our name?" There's a boundless world of opportunities out there, you know. We could be hired to construct bridges or excavate wells. Eldrick, practicing his swordplay with Clang high atop the cabin, chimed in with a grin. The well diggers of death. Cyrus threw his head back and laughed heartily at the young man's jest. Next, he bellowed, encouraging the spirited brainstorming session. The men enthusiastically tossed out name after name, still bearing the dark touch of death. Gavrick proposed, the Sable Reapers of Death. Eamon countered, the Stormbringers of Death. Eldrick suggested, the Deathly Vanguards. Clang added, the Crimson Heralds of Death. Service chimed in, the Balefire of Death Brigade. Eamon, inspired again, proposed, the Astral Death Slingers. Gavrick, not to be outdone, offered, the Twilight Death Titans. Cyrus, joining in the fun, concluded, the Sovereign Shadows of Death. Eldrick finished his sparring session with Clang on top of the cabin wagon, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. As he jumped down to the ground, he turned to glance at the side of the wagon and saw the giant white sigil emblazoned there. A broad smile spread across his face as he recognized the crossed crescent blades and realized the significance of the emblem. He cleared his throat and spoke up. Hey guys, check out the sigil on the side of the cabin. The rest of the group turned to see the white paint in perfect symmetry, detailing a silhouette of Cyrus and his deadly twin blades. We need a name that matches that emblem, said Eamon, tapping his chin in thought. After a moment of silence, Eldrick spoke up. How about the Company of the Crescent Blades? Everyone nodded in agreement, and Cyrus beamed with pride at his group's new name. It was a perfect fit. They truly were a company that embodied strength and unity. The name filled them with a sense of purpose and determination, and they all felt ready to face whatever lay ahead as the Company of the Crescent Blades. Despite the looming perils and the relentless march of time, the unbreakable spirits of Lord Cyrus and his mercenary band shone like a beacon in the gathering darkness. With each step closer to the enigmatic mountains, their determination only grew stronger, their hearts ablaze with the fires of adventure. Thank you for listening to Fate Weaver by Elias T. Least. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for exclusive original works from this author. All donations and proceeds from this work go directly to him. Cash App $EliasLeast. Copyright 2023.